Well, here we go. We're ready to get started. Today is a little bit different. We're going to be talking about the sales process. That's what the seminar is based on today, is the sales process. And so what we want to do is, I'm trying to fix the screen, so bear with me. But it's a sales process. To run a six-figure practice, you really have to understand, the sales process, right? And for this to work, it's not that hard, right? So welcome to the NLP sales training, and this is for our practice building section. So what we're going to do is go over a little bit of basic selling, because as a practitioner, you still have to sell your services. Unlike a lot of medical doctors where, we kind of have a captive market where when people show up, they got to pay you because they need it. A lot of our stuff, even though we know they need it, it's discretionary. It's, it's different. So you do got to be a little bit of a salesperson. As we get started, we're going to talk about the 5-step sales process. But a lot of people sent in their homework, and I looked at it, and, everybody's trucking along. And I think people are beginning to understand the concept of it, and that just tweak your thinking slightly and you'll get a whole bunch of different results. And I know, like the phone script, a few people really don't, with the kind of practice they want to run, it may not, work for what they're doing. But I'll stick my grounds to, especially for things like, if you're talking to somebody and what would you like to come in for hypnosis for, NLP for, and they say smoking or weight loss, that's when I pretty much would stick to the script or develop a script, because you can spend literally 15, 20 minutes on the phone and they'll say, thank you very much, I'll think about it. And I just stress that if they won't come in for the free screening, they won't come in for a session. Now, what a lot of people do to get comfortable with the process is they do the sales script, if you will, to decide if hypnosis is right for you and whether Suncoast Hypnosis can accept you as a client for weight loss. You need to come in for a free screening. So we see people on Wednesdays and Thursdays. What day would be best for you? And then and you get used to that. And then if they make the appointment, then you can answer some questions because they've already committed. But don't talk them out of coming. You want to build the excitement to come in. You don't want to take away the excitement. Don't take away the magic. It's like we said about the magic. You want to keep the magic in the thing. So let's talk about the 5-step sales process, right? Which is, first of all, you have to remember your basic NLP skills. The basics are the key. Do what you would teach a new practitioner, right? And always remember that you, as the practitioner, you have the answer to their needs, whether it's weight loss, stop smoking, performance enhancement, whatever it is that you're doing. With the NLP and the sales skills that you have the answer to their needs, right? So that's the thing to always remember, right? And again, if they don't become clients, you can't help them. So don't help them before they become your client, right? So the 5-step sales, yes, I speak for a living. The 5-step sales process. Basically, it's kind of what we would do in a session. You establish rapport, you ask the proper questions, you find the need, what their need is, why do they want to lose weight? What's their driver, right? The need or value. And you link that to your product or service, the hypnosis, the NLP, the stuff that you're doing. Then you close the sale. It's pretty much that simple, right? Sounds simple. We're going to go through it, right? But you need 5 principles for those things to work. And again, just kind of change your thinking a little bit. Because again, the hundreds of people I've worked with this kind of stuff over the years, and myself sometimes could fall into it. You don't want to think of yourself as a salesperson. But if you believe in the art and science of hypnosis and NLP, you're using your hypnotic and NLP techniques all the time. You cannot not do it. So why not start in the very beginning? Also, when you're doing this, you're training your clients from the beginning. You're starting the therapy process at the start. You're establishing where you want them to go, how you want them to do it, who's in control, things like that. So, it's very, very judicious the way you do this, right? And again, if you have these 5 principles, it makes it easier, right? Number 1, of course, is know your outcome. And again, this is going to change from like on the phone. Your outcome is to get them to come in for a free screening. Or if you talk more on the phone, to get them commit to a session. So you know your outcome, right? You need to take some action to get there, whether it's your sales script or whatever, right? And you need to have sensory acuity. So if what you're doing is not working, you need to have the behavioral flexibility to change what you're doing. And if you're on this call and you're trying to change your business, try something different. Add 1 or 2 of these little things and then add more, right? And of course, you operate from a physiology and psychology of excellence. You put yourself in a good state when you're talking to your clients, either on the phone and of course, when they come into your office, right? And this is the same format you would use when you're doing sessions with people or part of your programs, right? In this session 1, you know your outcome, you know what the action you're going to do, you see if it's working, you're a little bit flexible, and you put yourself in a good state to get started. And so with this, this will develop some empowering beliefs as a sales champion, right? Every prospect has their own model of the world, right? That's, even though I'm telling you to develop these script, with our skills, we realize every person's a little different. So you're going to tweak it, visual, auditory, kinesthetic language. You're going to respect that prospect's model of the world. So they want to lose weight, and they're talking about they want to see themselves look good. They want to look good in the mirror. They want their husband or spouse to look at them differently. So you're respecting their model of the world, right? And you're using that to help make changes. And again, the meaning of the communication and response that you get, right? If you're not getting the people to come in for the first session, or you get a lot of people that call and you talk too much on the phone, then they don't show up for their sessions. You need to change your communication, right? Because again, there's no failure, there's only feedback. Change it a little bit, tweak it. It's all a learning process till you make it yours. And resistance in a client is a sign of lack of rapport. This comes back later in the sales process, right? And there are no resistant clients, only flexible communicators. I kind of tweak that. Yes, they're resistant clients. There are some people that just, you don't want in your office, right? You're really getting successful when you fire clients or you won't take people on because you just know that it's not, even though you might be able to help them, they're going to be way too much work, right? And again, this all breaks down on to rapport. You have to have rapport with people, right? And again, let's go back to the basics. And again, I think we can forget this, the posture. Are you sitting like your client when they come in for the session? Are you matching their facial expressions? And again, the number 1 disarming rapport thing, everyone thinks it's a smile. That's part of it, but it's a smile with what they call the eyebrow flash. So as you're smiling, if you raise your eyebrows, puts people at ease. So again, use all this when you're talking to clients. And the breathing you can also do on the phone. You can pace and match their voice quality, things like that. And also the visual, auditory, kinesthetic language, the predicates they use. You can use that on the phone just as easy as when they come in. And again, if you're organized, I never was as organized as I could have been. But as they're coming in for the session, if I jot down, some of their keywords for weight loss, and whether they're visual, auditory, kinesthetic, when they come in, I remembered that. So then it speeded up that rapport when they came into my office, right? And it helped make them comfortable, right? So you want to mirror match their breathing especially, so you put them in a comfortable place. Now, the voice matching we can do on the phone, right, which is tone, tempo, timbre, volume. We want to match those. We also really want to go back to the basics and begin to think about our language, right? So are you matching their language? It's easy for us to fall out of that, but especially when you're first meeting a client. Remember, once you really establish a good deep rapport, if they're visual and you're kinesthetic, it's a lot easier after you have rapport. But when you're first getting rapport, and plus if you consciously practice this, if you're not already doing it, but you make it an effort again, it'll become second nature that you begin to do it more just unconsciously. So let's go back to our basics and practice. If you got the basic NLP manual, it had the visual words, auditory words, kinesthetic words, and of course unspecified words, even olfactory, gustatory words. So you can become multimodal in your communication. You want to ask questions on, not so much on the phone and the way I did it, but when they get into your office. But even if you are asking questions on the phone, right? Like I said, in my practice, when it would get going, if you call for smoking or weight loss, I jump to the script automatically. If you brought up a different issue, I would ask, why are you doing this? What specifically do you want in a pain management program? I would ask more questions about some of the specialty things, right? And again, I would ask that because A, it's I want to get more information, and B, I would sum it up. So what's important to you about a pain management program? What's important to you about improving your golf game? What's important to you about improving your communication in your marriage? So I'm going to get some of those values so I know what that person is doing, right? And then I can get some ideas in my head of how I'm going to help that person and get them to come in to talk to them. Even if I did spend time on the phone with them, I always said you still need to come in for a free screening. Why? A, it makes it a systematic approach in your practice. And B, they may get there and you may not want to, it may be beyond your scope, right? I know I've worked with, excuse my dog's barking. Hold on a minute. Hey. Okay. Anyway, that threw me off. I'll have to edit that out. So, they come in, and this would happen a lot for other things, and they were on so many medications, I didn't want to mess with them. It would be too much work, right? So you really want to focus on, finding out what it is, right? And again, if they come in for the free screening, and you said you think you could help them in 2 or 3 sessions, and then in the screening you find out there's a lot more issues there, in the screening you can change what you said you were going to do, or say there may be more, and then it's really not a bait and switch. It's kind of what a doctor would do. I mean, if they think they can do one thing, but as they say in surgery, once we open you up it may be different, right? So let's work with that, right? So get your mind into the mindset of how to sell, right? And that's very important, right? You want to prep your testimonial book. Now what's a testimonial book? People ask about that. It's, especially if you're first starting out or you really haven't done this before, right? So you got your testimonial book. Now all a testimonial book is things your clients have said. And people ask, well, how do you get that? Well, you ask. And sometimes you don't even ask. When a client comes in, let's say you were doing a weight loss program and it's the 3rd week in the weight loss program, which we'll get to when we do the protocol. And you say, hey, Mary, how are you doing this week? She says, I'm doing great. I've lost 12 pounds already. And, I'm exercising. I feel great. Really? And you kind of jot that down on a piece of paper, right? And then later on, I'd have them sign it, right? I'd say, if you want to rewrite it, here's a piece of paper. Please do it now, right in front of you. Don't let them say, I'll go home and do it. No, they won't. Have them do it right in front of you, right? So after the session, now they're feeling even better. They just write a little thing. It's week 3 of my weight loss program. I've done X, Y, and Z. I'm feeling great. I stopped smoking after the first session, and now we're working on stress man. Whatever they say is fine, right? And then they sign it, and you put it in your little testimonial book. Now, again, once you get used to this, it's very easy because they saw one when they came in your office, right? Now, until you really collect a lot of testimonial, go out on the internet. You're all on the computer. You can do this. Research reports on hypnosis and weight loss, hypnosis and this. And you put some of those in your testimonial book. And you also can collect articles, right? photocopy articles from the Journal of Hypnotism, or wherever you can collect articles that is applicable to the use of hypnosis with, my testimonial book was mostly about the weight loss, and smoking. It had a couple other things in there, right? But you collect all these and you just put them in a 3-ring binder, and it grows through time, right? And again, when your clients are doing this, if you're seeing a client through time, like for weight loss, for say, 6, 8, 10 sessions, you may end up getting 2 or 3 different little testimonials from them, like on the 2nd week and let's say the 8th week. Doesn't matter. You just put them in there because the dates are different. So you date it like, today's date, May 2nd, 2013, Will Horton, city, Venice, Florida. Hey, I've just this is my 3rd week of XYZ program. I'm doing great. Betty is a great hypnotist. She's helping me out. Whatever they say, da-da-da-da-da. Then maybe in 3 or 4 weeks, it's got a different date, June 1st, Will Horton, Venice, Florida. Hey, I've lost 14 pounds already. I can't wait to complete the program and start the follow-ups. Yada, yada, yada. Sign it, right? So when your clients are looking at it, they may notice that there's the same name 2 or 3 times. You just point out, well, yeah, I help people long term. This isn't just one thing, right? It's also how you can collect, information over time. And then again, as I collected more testimonials, I would move the research articles to the back. Finally, it got to the point I had a big, thick testimonial book. I put all the articles and research and things in another book, and I left that in the waiting room for people to look at as they were waiting for me, right? Which was very good, right? So let's get to the magic, right? I want to keep this short. I want call a little shorter than last week. I went over, but first rule of selling, is under promise and over deliver. And I said it'd be about an hour. I thought probably about an hour, 15 minutes. I went a little over. So let's start a screening. So let's say the person comes in and, now they're coming into your office, right, for whatever problem. I'm going to use weight loss as my example, right? And they filled out whatever intake form you had. Mine was very simple, and basically it was their name, their address, very simple. I didn't want to turn it into a 5-page thing, right? And I also say, how is this how has this issue caused you problems? And they write a few of those down, right? And then they come into your office. Let's say they come into your office out of the waiting room. Okay, I would always, take them, thank them, have them sit down, and then say, how has being fat caused you problems? All right? And yes, I use the word fat. Never use the word overweight. I use fat. It's a rapport building technique. Any of us that's ever had a weight problem didn't look in the mirror and go, I think I'm overweight. You looked in the mirror and went, I'm fat. When I, had my come to Jesus moment about putting on weight and I couldn't buckle my pants at a conference, in fact, right, and had to lay on the bed, take a deep breath, zip up my pants, I didn't get up and think, I've developed a slight weight issue. Maybe my thyroid's out. No, I looked in the mirror and went, I'm a fat pig. And so that's the true inner dialogue, right? And people always worry about that. Usually it's thin people that worry about saying it to someone. But you're just asking a question. How's being fat caused you problems? Right? Then I ask them to get honest. I need you to get honest with me. Right? Especially if they act like, well, it really hasn't caused me any problems. And sometimes people say that, and I would always say to them, why are you here? If this is not a problem, why are you here? It's if they don't, you want them to associate in a problem, because we minimize when we start talking to other people, right? So you want to associate them back into the problem, And so you say, Jeff, how's being fat caused you problems? Well, and they tell you, first they say, not really. So then why are you here? Why, if it's no problem, why do you want to change? Well, I'm a coach, I'm a personal trainer, I'm this, I'm that, it doesn't look good. Oh, okay. So now they're associating into the problem, right? And I amplify it a little bit. So you think you've lost business because of your weight, is what you're saying. Yes, okay. And, just go down the thing, right? If it was smoking, it's not really a problem, really, right? I only spend a couple bucks a day, really. And, I always had some of those statistics. You smoke a pack a day at $5 a pack. Now that's, you know, $150 a month, but it's actually a lot more. You got lighters, you got things, it's double whatever that is, right? So, but if they won't get honest with you, they're not associating in the problem. It's harder to help them, right? So let's say they tell you a few things that, it's affecting their personal life. They don't like the self-esteem. They have no energy. So now you got that. Great. So then I always say, let me ask you a question. I'll pick on my buddy Jeff if he was here. Let me ask you a question, Jeff. How will you know when you made a good decision? Is it something you see or feel? Last time you made a good decision, what happened? And they say, whatever they note, they answer, I note that. Because this is a subconscious anchor that I'm going to use later. And I anchor. So when you make a good decision, you just feel right. Is that true, Jeff? Oh, okay. And I probably, since I'd be in my office, I'd probably touch my tie. Oh, I could appreciate that. Let me ask you one other question, Jeff. You said that being overweight caused you this, caused you that, lost self-esteem, self-respect, not being able to buy clothes, affected your health, knees hurt, things like that. So it's caused you a lot of problems, isn't that right? Yes. I anchor this a little bit away, like probably on a table, right? Like I tap as I say that. Okay. Because I'm basically focusing on and slightly increasing the emotional pain. So, they've come in. I've asked how being overweight's causing problems. They're honest with me. I asked them about a good decision. I anchor that to me. Talk about the pain of the problem. Anchor that to something else away from me. And then, increase it a little bit. And then say, well, the good news is hypnosis and NLP is the #1 way to help you make this change. That's why you're here. It's fast. It's effective. It's subconscious. Because it's not what you eat. It's what's eating you. Wouldn't you agree? And I just talked a little bit about, I don't go into detail. They don't want to become a hypnotist. They want their problem solved. That's it, right? So you just talk about it's a great way to do it, right? And then I say, well, let's see if hypnosis will work for you. And I do this even when, obviously everyone knows I do NLP intertwined with it. But if you notice, the NLP is layered. And then I do let me see if how hypnotizable you are. Because then I would just say, if you can read a book or watch a movie, you can be hypnotized. So let me use your imagination. Let's do a couple of little tests. And I make it into a show. I stand up, I move around, and I stress that you need to do do not fail tests. Tests that are fast and easy. Things like the finger lock test, where you have them squeeze their hands together, bring their index fingers up. Then you have them squeeze and pull their index fingers a little bit apart. And say, there's a rubber band on your finger. They're moving closer and closer together, closer and closer, closer and closer until they touch. Oh, great. Now, again, if their fingers snap together and it's a physiological lock, their fingers want to come together, great. If they hold their fingers apart, I would still say great. It lets me know they're actually analyzing the words that I'm saying. Doesn't mean they can't be hypnotized. It means you're probably going to have to do like a confusion induction, a blackboard induction, something like that, right? Then I usually do the eye lock test, right? Where you just have people close their eyes, roll their eyes up like they're looking through the top of their heads. Keep their eyes closed, but look up, look up, look up. Now imagine your eyes are glued shut, glued shut, glued shut. Keep looking up. Your eyes are glued shut. In fact, the more you try to open your eyes, the more tightly shut they become. Your eyebrows wiggle, but your eyes won't open. Your eyebrows wiggle, but your eyes won't open. Try, but you can't. Try, but you can't. Come on, don't be a weenie. Try, but you can't. Your eyes won't open, and just relax. Now, just let your eyes relax. Now, go ahead and open your eyes. And again, if their eyes stayed shut, 80% of the people I always had, their eyes did stay shut. That lets me know, let's say their fingers snapped together and their eyes stayed shut. A progressive relaxation will work. A Dave Ellman will work quite well. Fine, right? Anything will work, right? Because they're following what you said. They're subconsciously following you. If their eyes popped open and their fingers stayed apart, great. Lets you know they're a little bit more analytical. You're probably going to want to do like a blackboard test where you add more confusion in, with a Dave Ellman, especially for the first session. They need to learn how to be hypnotized, right? Good. So now you say, great, you're going to be a great hypnotic subject. This is going to work great for you. But before we go on, I want you to look at this testimonial book. So I hand them the book. These are people just like you that wondered if hypnosis would work for them. And then I would anchor that, I'd fire that anchor about making a good decision. But these people made a good decision. You know what that feels like, right, Jeff? Great. So what I want you to do, go ahead and look at this book, right? So I hand it to them and look at it until they know it's the right place for them, right? And then as they do that, you say, I'll be right back. And if you got a multi-room office, you can always go do something else. Hopefully you have another client there so you can go out to talk to them, so it makes you look busier, right? So as you're leaving, you kind of casually say, this is very hypnotic, right? You say, go ahead and look this over until you know this is your answer. Take your time, because it's the things you don't do that you regret the most. And only you can convince yourself that you want to do this now. So go ahead, I'll be right back. Just look at this and then leave, right, for a couple of minutes. Get a cup of coffee. If you got another client, you talk to them for a few minutes, tell them you'll be right with them. I used automation, which we'll get to in the protocols, so I could start them and then come on back. And you notice some people would read 1 or 2, 3 testimonials. Some would read a whole bunch. Doesn't matter, right? You're letting them actually make the decision, right? And about 1% of the time, you might come back and you could just tell they're not going to do it. And that's fine. That's fine, right? But I'm using hypnosis and NLP from the very beginning, because that's what I do, right? This is how I help people, right? Now, the key point when you come back in the room after they've looked at it, you're selling a solution to their problem. You are not selling hypnosis or NLP or Reiki or whatever. You're selling a solution to their problem. Hypnosis, NLP, Reiki, meditation, all of those things are the method that you're going to do it. You're selling you as the answer, that you have the answer and you have the solution to their problem, right? If you do that, if you sell you as the answer, they'll follow you, right? And I'm going to do an advanced one of these later on, and all of you be invited in on how you can really add in that, as you come back in the room, you remember you're selling the solution as a problem. You're the solution to their problem, and hypnosis and NLP is the answer. And you come back in and say, you've probably tried a lot of things to lose weight. Isn't that true, Jeff? And it's probably almost to the point you don't even want to hope anymore. But I have good news for you. Hypnosis and NLP is a great way to really help, because you're changing the subconscious mind. Once the subconscious mind is changed, everything begins to change. It's kind of like, there's things you used to do and now you don't do, and so I'm already setting up the NLP techniques in the screening, that we're going to have the hope to help you change, right? So now you come back in the room and you ask if you have any questions. And then you explain your process, whatever your process is, a protocol, a 6-session, whatever it is that your process. What we do here at Suncoast Hypnosis for weight loss issues like yourself is we have 3 basic programs, a basic, a gold, and a silver, and a gold. And I just explain them real quick. And then, and just what the process is. It's 6 sessions with 3 follow-ups, and those are, which we'll get to in a moment, the price. The gold program is 12 sessions with 6 follow-ups, and then, we also have a jumpstart program that's just 3 sessions with no follow-ups. And so you just kind of say that. You haven't really explained it too much, but this is, but you probably need that, you don't need the Jumpstart program. You probably need one of the others, right? Because really, if you give 3 options, if you give a real low option like 3 sessions, you give a big option like 12 sessions with 6 follow-ups, most people will go for the middle program, which is maybe the one I wanted to sell anyway. And then after I say those are those, now let me tell you, this is the only time, Jeff, we ever really want to talk about money. Or this is the only time, Betty, we ever want to talk about money. As I want to focus on your success. Getting you to your goal is my goal. And I never want money to be an issue again. So here's what we have. The silver program is the 6 sessions with 3 follow-ups, and I'll do everything I can. It has a whole bunch of audio things you're going to do at home, some things to read, and that's usually $9.77 if you prepay, $12.77 if we have to work something else out. Then we have the gold program if you want to really go more. That's 12 sessions with a year's worth of follow-ups and everything, and that's $12.77 prepay. 15.77 if we do something else. And again, and then you just say, so what would you like to do? That's it. There's no big sell, And of course, as you say, what would you like to do? You touch your tie, whatever their anchor is for a good decision, right? And let them, now it's that big sales moment they talk about. You don't talk. So what would you like to do? Right? And wait. Let them make a decision. If they say, I want more information, that's fine. Say, okay. You could ask what? I don't, when you first hear this, it seems like I'm really trying to sell. I'm just laying it out and giving them the option. And I always tell people to sell programs and offer prepaid discounts. The reason you want to sell programs, like for weight loss, right, is if it's $977 for a program and you sign up, 100 people in a year, and once we get to marketing, that's a very doable number, right? That's $97,000. Now with marketing, you're not bringing that home, but you should be at a 50% bring home of whatever you're spending, even if you're marketing, right? Spending on a lot of marketing. So, and if they prepay, the reason you want to offer prepay is they've made the decision already and they never have to pay again. So this week, let's say they put it on a credit card, fine. And 2 weeks from now in their second or third session, they had to buy tires for the car. So they're not going to say, well, I'll skip the hypnosis this week because they've already paid, right? It makes them more committed. And I would argue that the research proves that the more vested you are, the more likely you are to succeed, right? And they also know they don't have to pay, so they're going to come in, right? And then once they're in my program, I give extra sessions. I offer other things. I'm going to tell you how to upsell things inside your programs, inside your sessions, so you can, get them to come in. I offer free classes. There's a whole methodology to increase your practice once it's rolling. But first, you got to get your clients. So you want to, I would say, put together programs. Even stop smoking. 3 sessions, $477 for smoking. And then a smoker always say, I just want 1 session. Well, I'm sorry, sir. That doesn't work. I don't do that. It's unethical. And I just did that with somebody, right? They wanted to stop smoking. I told them, they were friends of someone. I said, well, usually my stop smoking program is $477 for 3 sessions. For you, I'll do it for $277. I just want 1 session. I said, okay, it's $277. Well, I thought you said, well, that's what I charge. All right. And they kind of sat there for a moment. And again, I was just waiting. And they said, well, then I guess I'd take all 3 sessions. Good. Right. And, it's... it gets them in the system. Let's say they come in for the 1 session and they go for a pack of cigarettes a day. Over the next week, they smoke 3 or 4 times. If they were paying by the session, I guarantee you 80% of those people will not come back for the follow-up. If they've already prepaid, they're going to come back for the follow-up, right? Gets them in the system longer, right? And especially for smokers, you can also say, you're spending that on cigarettes anyway. Even your weight loss. You're going to save what you pay me in junk food, right? I never really had to go there on the food. But for the smokers, if they said, wow, that's a lot. Dude, you're spending $300 a month on cigarettes to kill yourself. If you can't spend money to get better, you're not the kind of client I want at Suncoast Hypnosis. Oh, you sound rude. No, sir. It sounds like I'm more worried about your health than you are. And usually they laugh, and then, and also too, it's a screening. Everything's a screening. Everything's a setting I don't say a therapeutic boundary, but it's how you get things to go, right? Plus, then it makes your cash flow a little easier, right? If people are prepaid, right? What are the general objections people have, right? They don't have enough money. I will work around that. I take payments. If they seem very motivated, I've gone out of my way to help people. I just went through my whole sales process, and people, when they first hear it, they think I'm kind of callous and heartless. But once we get to this point, if it's money or time, I'll try to work around it. But usually the big objection is they don't believe you're the answer, or they don't believe hypnosis can help them. And that's fine. It is not for everyone. I think it is personally. But, if they're looking for a magic bullet, I thought I'd just come in for one session and it'd be like I never smoked in my life. Well, Betty, if I could do that, I would be charging $3,000 for that one session, and I would probably be booked out for the rest of the year. Right? You have smoked for 30 years. There are these things going on, right? So they're either looking for a magic bullet, and those people I don't want in my clinic after a while, or they just don't believe you're the answer, right? And that's fine. And at this point, if they say, well, let me think about it. Okay, well, just out of curiosity, what do you have to think about? That's it. That's my only comeback, which is, I don't know if I can fit it in my schedule right now. Oh, okay. Okay. Or they say, I really don't know if I can swing that $977. Well, tell you what, if you do 3 payments, I'll still give you the prepay price. Oh, okay. Something like that. I'll work around it, right? But if it gets down to they go, well, if they don't believe you're the answer, they may say it's money. And you say, well, tell you what, if you make 3 payments, I'll give you the prepay price. All right. Oh, no, it's still a lot. Oh, well, then there's other issues. And myself, I let it go. For a while, or if my appointment book's totally empty, I'd say, well, I usually don't do this, but you could pay as you go, session, which is, and then you take the big price and you divide that by like $977 divided by 6, not 9. And they say, well, I thought it would be the $977 divided by 9, so it's no. You're paying for 6 sessions. The follow-ups are free, right? Oh, okay. And again, if they had an objection at that point, they're really down here. They don't believe you're the answer. I say, well, I wish you the best, and we're here if you ever really want to change. And then, again, if you got clients in your office, you're busy. You got stuff to do. Makes it easier, right? And the other advantage to having clients in your office when people come in for a screening is half the time your clients will sell you before you do the screening on the person. Oh, have you started the program yet? No, I'm here for a screening. Oh my God, you're going to love it. I don't know how many times I come in to do the screening. They go, oh, no, Mary told me all about it. I'm ready. Oh, okay. I still go through the whole process. You still go through the whole process, even if they're ready to sign up, because you want everybody on the same page, right? And then if they've signed up, and they've given you the payment, I always take payment then, and usually I'd say, well, book them to come in a week, but to be honest with you, if I have the time, I'll start them right then. But hopefully you're busy enough, you say, well, we'll start you tomorrow or the day after, so they're coming in. I have my pre-talk on hypnosis on a DVD or CD that they can take and listen to. And I'd hand it to them and say, this is the only CD you can listen to in your car, all right? This is why people take too much time, like in a screening. They do the whole pre-talk, what hypnosis is, what hypnosis isn't, all of this stuff where, it's crazy. So they're spending all this time, and they haven't even signed up yet. Now, once they sign up, then I'm going to do the whole pre-talk, what it is, what it isn't, how it works, yada, yada, yada. Because, again, they want the solution to their problem. Hypnosis is the tool, but they just want the problem solved, right? So now that they've committed to it, now I'm going to give them the pre-talk, right? And I say, just listen to this once or twice before our first session. Great, right? And even if, let's say I'm going to start the session right then, I have it on my pre-talk was about 15, 20 minutes. I'd put them in a chair, put on headphones, hit play, let them listen to what I've already recorded, right? Because it was pretty standard and I know what's in there. Now, this also turns into a marketing tool. So let's say they leave with your pre-talk, right? And so they come back 2 days from now for their first session, and they've got their little CD with them. They brought it back, right? And now you're going to do the first session. I would always say, no, you go ahead and keep that. So they keep it. And then I'd say as they're leaving, you know what? You can go ahead and give that to one of your friends if you want, right? And then I'd have people asking for those pre-talks. And all the pre-talk was like I said, what hypnosis and NLP is, how it works, why. And it was constantly sprinkled in with my name, Suncoast Hypnosis. And here at Suncoast Hypnosis, we have the answer to the problem because we use conscious, subconscious communicate, whatever I had in there. So it was sprinkled with that. So when they handed it to a friend of theirs, they were getting a really good information on hypnosis, not a secondhand version of it. And it became a marketing tool that, if you burn your own CDs, it's pennies, right? And so cheaper than a business card with a lot more information, right? So let's say you've sold the person, right? So you want to think about their meta programs. Do they move toward or away from? This will come up as you're talking to them, right? And you just might want to note this, especially if they're becoming a client and they've decided to sign on. I'd say, okay, let me ask you a couple quick questions. What's important? When you think about losing weight, what's important to you about that? And I'm listening for these meta programs. Do they move toward or away from, right? Are they looking for similarities or differences? And the big one I always go for, are they specific or are they global? Do they just want a big picture? So let me ask you a question. And, because then I'm going to use this later when I'm giving them things to do. If they want specifics, I'm going to say, I need you to listen to this CD, 7 times in the next week before you come back, at least once during the day. Give them very specific, information. If it's global, hey, I just need you to listen to this, preferably every day, right? So it helps give you the information back to your client in a way that they're going to appreciate it. Plus, if they're very specific, I'm going to give them a lot more handouts, a lot more things to read. Now, with this, you want to begin to think about your anchoring, right? Because this starts the very first time, not just on the phone, but it starts with your clients. When they come in for the screening, you want to start anchoring them, right? So whenever they're excited, obviously they're entering into an emotional state. So now they're excited about signing up, right? You want to anchor that state, right? You want to anchor that state of excitement, like about what you're doing, right? So at the end of, let's say, the first session, oh, if you love today's session, Mary, you wait till next week. And you anchor that to you, and if you're giving them like a CD to listen to, a follow-up thing to listen to at home, you're anchoring it to that. So that excitement will be anchored into the changes that they're doing, right? Because you can recall a past intense emotion, and you anchor that memory, right? So whenever a client's in a positive state, you want to anchor that to you, and you want to anchor negatives away. I remember I was running a alcohol and drug treatment program, right? I was the director for outpatient thing for a private hospital that is now closed. And our overall person that was in charge was a social worker / MBA. But anyway, they track a lot of information at those places, right? And this was a long time ago. But they found that my clients, and this was addiction, so you always had a high no-show rate, people don't come back, things like that. My rate was the highest in the center and the highest in, I don't know if the whole chain, but it was high compared to everybody else. And she asked me, she goes, what are you doing different? And I go, honestly, don't know. I do what I do. I this is what I do, right? And I've been trained in alcohol drug counselor, but I'm an helper and a hypnotist. So anyway, I started thinking about, well, what do I do different? So I'm watching people. Now, they were doing like a lot of inner child work, making people cry, and it was whatever. This was vogue in the late 80s, right? And so people would be all emotional, which a lot of therapists do. I'm not being judgmental. I guess I am, but I'm trying not to be. But anyway, they're crying, they're upset, and they be coming out with their client, and this person's red-eyed and teary, and they're patting them on the back going, you did really great work today, Rich, wait till next week. We're going to dig even deeper, right? And you're anchoring a negative state, right? And I don't know where I learned it, but I just started, after a session, and sometimes they may be kind of an emotional session with addictions. I will always stop and get them laughing and joking and get them laughing on the way out. And I try to anchor that. And I said, well, if hey, if you like this week's session, wait till next week. We're going to do this and this, and I'm going to teach you some self-hypnosis. That I left them on a positive note, which kind of makes sense, You want to do things that are positive. You don't want your clients thinking of you like a dentist's office where you go in for pain. You want them positive and motivated. So you want to anchor those things to yourself, anchor negatives away, right? And now it all goes back to finding a need and establishing value. So the purpose of asking questions is to establish a need. That's why we start at the beginning with how's being fat cause you problems, how's smoking cause you problems, how's the addiction cause you problems. Because once you have the need, you'll be able to fill it, right? Because 80% of the people have already bought the item in their mind, especially if they're coming in for the session, right? And again, it's easier to make that connection when they're in front of you. Even if you're great on the phone, it's not as strong as sitting in front of you, right? So you want to have the people already committed in their mind. And when they come in, they've already decided to purchase what you're selling, right? So you want to think about that idea. So you want to find a need, and then you establish it, right? So you know what the need is. Because the value of the solution, and the greater the value, the higher the dollar amount you can charge. I was I had somebody in my office, and I was training them. They were a mentor person, right? And so they're hanging around my office, watching me. I had somebody call, and they go, hey, I got a fear of heights. I'm like, great, come on in, right? I said, you got to come in for a free screening, but I've worked a lot with heights. It was a good teaching thing because I broke from my traditional protocol where I said, you still need to come in for the free screening, but, I've helped hundreds with fear of heights. It'll be easy. And so the person came in, and then they were a referral from a weight loss client. And they were on vacation down here in Florida. They were from somewhere up north. So they came in the next day. And they came in, and now I'm doing the screening. And I ask, what specifically, I'm establishing the need. What specifically gets you want to get over heights now? I mean, how long have you had it? And they said, well, off and on for a long time. I got over it for a long time, but it seems to come back. I said, well, why do you want to change? What the heck's the big deal? And I remember the guy said, well, I'm an iron worker, and you make more money when you work up high. And I used to work up high on skyscrapers and stuff, but then this thing started bothering me, so I would take the jobs, like in steel factories, things like that, where it still pays good, didn't pay as much as working high, from what he said. I'm like, oh, okay. So we go through the thing. I still did the finger test and the eye lock, and I did everything, and I said, you know what? Hypnosis is going to work great for you. Yeah, hypnosis and NLP. And he goes, great. I said, I think we can knock this out with one session, and you're leaving anyway in a couple of days, but it should be fine, and we can test it. And I'll give you a couple CDs to listen to. He goes, great. Now I go for the close, right? And I go, let me ask you a question there. He goes, what's that? And I go, if I could fix this problem right now, today, what's it worth to you? If I could get you over this fear of heights. And he thought for a minute, and you could tell he was thinking. And he went, well, to be honest with you, $750. I said, well, that's interesting. You come up with that. Usually I charge $1,000, but since you're only here for a day or two, and you're friends of whoever the referral was, okay, $750, right? He goes, okay. So then, now this took about 15 minutes from the time I said hi. We went back into into one of the treatment rooms, right? And I did a real quick relaxation, did the fast phobia technique, well, actually it's a visual squash fast phobia technique. Got him up, did the circle of excellence, anchored that, did my, what animal do you think is, very powerful? And I did my little animal exercise. And I did all that. That took maybe 15, 20 minutes. And I said, well, how do you feel? He goes, great. And I said, what happens now when you think about heights? He goes, I'm not afraid. I said, again, no, really. Close your eyes. Imagine you're on a beam. He goes, yeah, it seems okay. I said, well, we need to really test it. So we got in my car, and we're driving around. And I was actually going to head over. Well, Florida doesn't have a lot of skyscrapers. But there was one place that kind of had an atrium, 3 or 4 story atrium where you could look down. That's where I was heading, right? And that would have worked. In fact, I did that in Malaysia in an atrium for a guy for fear of heights. But as we're driving, I saw a billboard, right, that they were working on. So everything's down. It's just the scaffolding, right? And the ladder was down. Must have been lunchtime. I said, let's try this. So I pulled over the side of the road, and I didn't know if we'd get in trouble. But, hey, I figured, I'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission. So I said, go climb that. He goes, okay. He jumps out of my, I had my Jeep then. Jumps out of my Jeep, walks over. I see him climb up. Now again, I got my car running because I'm ready to drive away. But he climbs up, right? Gets up there, and it's pretty high. One of those big billboards on the side of a road. Right, and he gets up on the top and he's walking around. I seen him lean over, kind of stuff you'd imagine an iron worker would do, right? No, he wasn't safety strapped in, but he did that. He's up there maybe 5 minutes. He comes trucking down. He goes, "Wow, that was kind of cool." So I said, "Well, let's go back to the office." Went back to the office, walked in, and he goes, "So that's it?" And I said, "That's it. Except here's your CDs for you." And he goes, "Okay." And I go, "Will that be cash or credit card?" He goes, "Can I write you a check?" I said, "Sure, your friend's a Betty or whatever, no problem." So he wrote me a check for $750. He left, and that was he established the value. One of the things we do as hypnotists, we get stuck in this idea of what a session is, right? My office transformed when I got out of the idea of doing sessions. And when I was really busy, if people call and say, "Well, I just want to know how much a session," I'd say, "I don't know. I don't do sessions." "What do you mean?" "Well, I customize a tailored program based on your needs and the problem you're trying to solve." Oh. And I never had anybody question it. And actually, it sounds much more to me professional, right? So I didn't do a session. It wasn't like, a session is X. It was a customized program, right? And every once in a while, I would do that. I'd say, "Well, what would this be worth to you?" Now, remember, like for weight loss, when I tell people to charge $977 for a short weight loss program, people go, "Oh, will people pay that?" Yes, they pay thousands of dollars for weight loss programs. There was one by us that was running, and they ran the ad that said, "Lose all the weight you want for $20," and you came in, $20 screening was $20, and then they upsold you into the canned programs with the packaged meals and vitamins and snacks. The average client spent over $4,000 the first year with this company, right? So, that to me is more unethical than saying, "Look, I can do this for $977 and this is what I offer," right? So weight loss clients are used to spending the money. Again, smokers, they don't think about it, but they're used to spending the money. They do spend the money, right? And so, and again, if you don't believe me, just go to any, next time you're at a store, walk around the weight loss aisle. There's, oh my God, most of it doesn't work, but people are spending it, right? So, you need to link the need in the person to your product or service, actually to you and your product and services, the hypnosis, the NLP, so you link that value to the need, because the product will solve the problem. The hypnosis will solve your client's problem, right? And so this is really the answer, right? And again, we undervalue what we do. We really undervalue what we do, right? And again, as you're talking to the client, if they give you strategies, you can use those. I elicit their keywords, whether it's self-esteem, self-worth, energy, vitality, sexy, whatever their keywords about the thing that they're trying to do. I note those because that comes in with the value. How important is it to you to be healthy and vibrant and sexy? Oh, okay, right? And so, you know, and again, I really listen for their keywords because I always stress to people, if you're dealing with weight loss, health is usually not that important to them. It's usually vanity or something along those lines, right? People only care about their health when they're strapped down on a gurney in a hospital. As soon as they're out of the hospital, they're back to their old things, right? Now, again, we're the antithesis. If we're on that bell curve of normal population, people in our field are usually off to the edge, but most people don't value it, right? So always remember, whenever you're doing NLP, say it the way you want it. Be positive, but remember, you're doing NLP and hypnosis from the moment you say hello on the phone. It's what you do. It's not something you save to the session. I do hypnosis only and NLP only in my session. Well, then basically you're incompetent because that's the easy part. It's the setup to get there. Actually, the session should be the icing on the cake. So again, the 5-step sales process, right? Establish rapport, ask questions, find a need, link the need or value to the product and service, and you're one of the products and services. And then you offer the close, which I don't really offer a close. I just say this is what it is. Any questions? And if they just said let me think about it, I'd always say okay, but what specifically you need to think about? And I'd only ask it once, and it usually boiled down to that they probably didn't believe I was the answer, which is fine. Anybody tells you to have 100% sales close is probably stretching. If you're up in that 75, 80, 90 percentile, you're doing great, especially if you're selling programs, right? And again, the difference is it makes your schedule bigger. You sign up 10 people for weight loss for 6 sessions. Now it's going to start filling your office. And then there's that momentum. Remember the book, The Tipping Point, hitting momentum. Once it hits, now you got people in the system going. And you can track the needs. You can track what's going on. You can customize it. And it also gives you better testimonials, right? So we want to do this, right? And I can't stress that enough because the things that we're doing with NLP and hypnosis starts from the first time they call you or read about an ad or hear an interview or whatever. That's when the hypnosis starts, not when they're in your chair ready to be hypnotized, especially when they come into your office. That's hypnotic in origin. They're in a highly charged emotional state. They're probably nervous. I used to always ask people when they first come in, for their screening, are you nervous? Yes. Good, you should be. And they laugh, I laugh. It's a rapport thing. If they go, no, I go, you're not nervous? Wow, you ought to be. And everything is about setting the hypnotic standard, if you will, right? So I can't tell you enough how important this stuff is, right? So I'm going to be emailing everyone when I get this up on a replay. I'll be emailing you the link to the replay again. Still working on getting it on a membership site. That's coming. Bear with me. You're in the beta testing group, if you will. So you're going to get a whole bunch of extra stuff. I'm going to send some Word files for you to look at because next week we're working on the protocols and that on how to develop the protocols. I think we want to do protocols next, and then we'll work on the marketing at the end and clean it up because that alone will change and help you be much more successful, right? So I'd like to thank you for being a part of this call. Look for the email with the link and look for the the documents that'll come so you can review those. And again, I'm not saying that mine is this ironclad program. You got to do it 100% my way. I don't agree with those kind of practice building models. I think you want to customize it to fit you with what you're doing, but you want to, again, be that flexible person, right? Going back to our back to the very beginning of being flexible, right? I want to put this up there to close with, and you'll also be getting your test, not test, but your challenges, right? I want you to realize this, right? That operate from a principle of success. So you're going to take what I'm offering, hopefully, and customize it. Know your outcome. You want to build a better practice, and you're taking action. You're here, you're doing this, right? Have the sensory acuity to know, well, I'm going to, let's try some of this. Be flexible. I'll try this. I'll add this. Let me play with this until you make it comfortable, right? And then you can really rock with what you're doing, right? Because that's one of the big principles of success is to know your outcome, take action, and have that flexibility. And you're on your way. So I'd like to thank everyone for being a part of this call. I did keep it a shorter today. Next week's call will probably be a little longer, probably an hour and 15 minutes. And again, if you have questions, email me those. Because next week I'm going to start with a few question and answer on some of the things. Some people email me, other questions. That's fine. I'll just get back to you. Some I may use as part of the question and answer. And I think in a few weeks, I'm going to offer a question and answer webinar for my people on this call. And I'll do those on a webinar format. And it'll be like commonly asked questions, right? FAQs, frequently asked questions. So, because for a lot of us, building a business is a little bit different than what we expected when we became hypnotists. But if you want to be successful, you got to run a business. So I'd like to thank everyone for being a part of this call. Until next week, Godspeed and have a good time. Thank you.